every country in Southeast Asia, Pacific Island nations, Australia, Japan, South Korea, if we all work together to build out a consistent understanding that we're going to draw the line, we're going to be prepared to fight for the things that matter most of us, that we can continue to keep military deterrence in place. I think we've realized that the most provocative thing one can do is fail to demonstrate resolve. I think when the world sees alliances frayed, or they hear disinformation from the CCP or from Russia that says that the West, those of us who value democracy and freedom, that our nations are in decline, I think when they hear those repeated and we aren't resolved to demonstrate that those are fundamentally untrue, that authoritarian regimes feel more free to undertake precisely the kind of adventurism that's killing Ukrainians today. We can't let that happen. We need to make sure that every freedom-loving nation is more dependent on other freedom-loving nations and less dependent on authoritarian regimes. I mean that economically, and I mean that diplomatically. One can't answer the question about the likelihood of this in a static way. It depends on how we respond and behave. It depends on the work that we do. It depends on our willingness to listen to Taiwanese leadership who tells us we need certain equipment, we need certain training assistance. You all are prepared to expend your money to purchase these systems. We should be prepared to help you train and use them effectively as well. So you can't answer how likely it is in a static way, because it turns on the willingness of the Western world to demonstrate that the costs for Xi Jinping engaging in that kind of activity are just too high. The last thing I want to say about this is, and I think this is really important, most of the conquest that Xi Jinping has achieved during his time hasn't been undertaken militarily. It's been done through his use of the Belt and Road Initiative. It's been done through his use of information operations around the world. It's been done through influence operations around the world. It's been done by using enormous economic power of the Chinese Communist Party to coerce small governments and say, boy, if you recognize Taiwan, we will stop sending tourists or visitors there. This just is an example of how they've used their economic power. So when one thinks about cross-strait relationships and the risk of Xi Jinping behaving in a way that is aggressive with respect to Taiwan, one shouldn't simply think of ships and planes and artillery, but one should think about yuan and diplomacy and information. Those are the spaces, cyberspace, information space, all of the places which, as sure as I'm sitting here today, Xi Jinping is thinking about trying to exert influence here in Taiwan each and every day, and trying his best to do it. And we have to make sure that we are equally resolved in preventing this from taking place.